Welcome to Copytraders Club, where you can learn how to make more money copy trading. I am Gavin McCauley, my name and username on eToro. You can continue the conversation on Discord and Facebook. Today I reflect on the last 3 chats we had and discuss big changes in my eToro portfolio. Here we go. Episode 18 of Copytraders Club, and as you may have picked up, I now plan to make 4 episodes a month with 3 chats to 1 solo episode. I'm also planning to trial a new episode type next month. Stay tuned for details. On this solo chat, I divide the episode into 3 parts. Part 1, look back at the last 3 chats. Part 2, portfolio review. And Part 3, Tales from the Crypto. So Part 1, look back at the last 3 chats. This gives me a chance to look back at some of the key points of interest and main takeaways from the last 3 episodes. Starting with Liziapukaja. This chat seems to have been a great success in shining a light on one of the lesser known PIs. I don't want to talk only to big names. I want to have an interesting blend of guests on the show, rather than just going for all the black stars. So this one was very interesting for me, and it appears for many others, to get to know Rudnick. I see a few people on his feeds mentioning how they listened to the show and decided to then copy him. So that's the first evidence of a Copytraders Club bump. In fact, he sent me a message to convey his, quotes, great gratitude for the exposure through Copytraders Club. Indeed, after it was aired, new copiers flocked in from all directions, many actually mentioning they have listened to the podcast. Close quotes. I personally wouldn't want to use the term kingmaker or to describe myself or person of significant influence or anything like that. I mean, if others want to, who am I to stop them? I'm very happy for him. I think he deserves it, and I can fully understand why he attracts people and they want to go on the journey with him. It would be a thought-provoking, entertaining and rewarding journey. He has some very interesting plans for surviving into the future. So that episode is well worth a listen. After that we had Sam Rudnick. This episode got, relatively speaking, a lot of listeners. I think there must be a lot of PIs listening to the show. Maybe they had heard about the Copytraders Club bump. Well, they have now. They will all know who Sam is. I doubt the average copy trader does, but everyone seemed to be interested to hear more direct from eToro. I'd like to get more eToro reps on. I need to do some research into the company and see who does what. The product development team and someone from marketing would be the most obvious choices to my mind. If you have any ideas, please share them with me. But yes, a huge thanks to Sam for coming on the show. Hopefully Yanni will be suitably impressed with the helicopter ride and will honour us with his presence one day. And then we had MJ Lux, Marcin Jasinski. Again, this was a really enjoyable chat, and to be honest, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. There was a risk that my mild ribbing of Marcin about his clothes and image consciousness could have been taken badly. Thankfully, Marcin, although a serious investor, doesn't take himself all that seriously. And he told me how he and his copiers have a good laugh about his sartorial elegance and his posing in fancy locations. So sometimes that happens. I have no idea what the guest is going to be like, and there's no guarantee that things will go well. So far, though, I have to say they've all been great. Happy to talk business, but also happy to reveal a little more of themselves as human beings than you might see elsewhere. I really enjoyed hearing about how he aims to attract high net worth copiers from his network of contacts. His Aston Martin stories were great, and his ideas on diversification and risk were highly valuable, if you ask me. So yeah, 3 really good episodes, even if I say so myself. Coming up in part 2, portfolio review. Part 2, portfolio review. Well, I'm 6 months in. If you are a regular listener to the show, you will have heard me say many times that I aimed to give my 4 original PIs 12 months. That was the plan. But I've made some changes. Andrew Haddon, aka Felix Valix, saw these changes happening and hilariously inquired as to whether my account had been hacked by C6 Steve of Moth Copytrading. But there is some method to my madness. A couple of things changed recently. Number 1, I decided I needed a better balance of allocation among my PIs. And number 2, cryptos dropped significantly in price. So let's talk about those 2 elements. Firstly, I wanted to rebalance my portfolio since it was top heavy on Samosa King. He's the reason I came to eToro, and I'm still of the opinion he's a very smart and capable investor who will do well for me in the long term. He's responsible for most of my profits to date, but was over half my bank, and I feel like the more I learn about copy trading and other PIs and asset classes, the more I felt compelled to adjust that. So I stopped his copy and reallocated some of the cash, restarting his copy with a smaller amount. But he remains a key player. Robert Merck and Elite Vol have both done well for me, and, more importantly, are suggesting themselves as well suited to the current and future market conditions, as I foresee them, and therefore demanding of more responsibility in the portfolio. So they have each been allocated more funds. Regular listeners to the show will also know that my knowledge of the crypto market is thinner than an after 8 mint, and they are wafer thin. But I started buying in what I perceive to be a dip. More on that in part 3. The point here is that with cryptos in the portfolio and a greater allocation to volatility trader Elite Vol, I figure there has been a change in the landscape of the asset class diversification within my portfolio. And so to trade better, whose name is only an example of nominative determinism, if you say it as an admonishment. Trade better. 6 months in, still in the red. 4 out of 6 red months. No videos, no website, seldom posts. Latest post was 2 months ago. To my particular tastes, that is really inadequate. So given those factors, plus sufficient asset class diversification elsewhere, I decided better trade better. I had a discussion on the Copytraders Club Discord, link in the show notes, with Mummer about this, and I said, somewhat dramatically, quotes, maybe Trade Better will have a better second half of the year. I imagine he will, but he didn't do enough to make me want to keep him in my life. That's quite dramatic. I don't feel like I know him any better now than I did 6 months ago, and that is important to me. I'm not being antsy because he didn't want to be on the pod. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but it didn't help me get a better understanding of him, which really does happen with every PI I talk to. I would happily copy everyone so far, or at least I totally get why others would. So ultimately, he hasn't done enough on any front. Returns, giving hope, giving of himself. That's the second dramatic bit. And it's a competitive arena. There are loads of good PIs out there. So if you're not cutting it, others will happily take your copiers. So, adios, Carlos. Carlitos away. I hardly knew you. So I wanted to bring in a fourth PI, but who? Well, if people are calling me a kingmaker, then I guess I better swear allegiance. Liziapukaja is in. I really look forward to seeing how he does in the potentially choppy waters ahead. I think he will do well. At a minimum, I'm going to enjoy his communications. So that is already an upgrade, at least on that front. The Hungarian contrarian is on the team. Coming up in part 3, Tales from the Crypto. Hope you're enjoying today's show. I'm sure you've subscribed already. If you are a successful copy trader, happy to share what you've learned, there's no need to have a public profile. Get in touch. The bigger the club, the better for you. So tell people on eToro about this show. Ask your PIs to come on. That way you will get to know them better. We build this club together. Part 3, Tales from the Crypto. Since the last update, I have taken my first baby steps into crypto. Aside from the usual disclaimer, I should probably add that I know almost nothing about cryptos and feel woefully underprepared to now be an owner of them. In the Brian G conversation, we discussed crypto, although it didn't make the final edit. And I said to him it was something I wanted to start to understand more. I had been hearing opinions from various places, including J Nemesis, calling for a drop soon, followed by a $100,000 peak for Bitcoin by the end of the year. And Robert Merck, who had just added more Bitcoin to his portfolio to create alpha, as he likes to say, in 2021. And it did seem to me that crypto was coming of age. What had so long seemed like a bunch of yahoos talking up fairy dust was appearing to be maturing into a serious asset class because of all the futuristic applications that have and continue to prove concept, and also because of demographic shifts. Baby boomers may still favour more old-school options like gold, but millennials and Gen Z prefer digital assets. So the yahoos from 10 years ago are now the decision makers of the world, CEOs and managers, and they're setting the agenda. All of that is evidenced by the institutional uptake, both in the form of financial institutions recognizing the opportunity and corporations moving cryptos into their treasuries. What are viewed as traditionalist institutions are, in fact, all about going where the profits are, and loads of old school names have changed their tune recently. Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Citigroup, hedge funds like Tudor BVI, Miller Value Partners. In fact, mainstream hedge fund acceptance is here. And when the likes of Ray Dalio starts talking about having 20% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, something is most definitely up. Then you have financial payments players like Visa, MasterCard, PayPal and Square. Add to that more modern, forward-looking players, Elon Musk, Tesla, the Sharks, Kevin O'Leary and Mark Cuban. I mean, across the spectrum, it's coming of age. Across the world. Lots of similar signs from Asia, Singapore and Hong Kong, and in Europe and beyond. Another bullish sign is that the SEC is currently reviewing at least 6 different Bitcoin ETFs, including by Fidelity and Van Eck, which could be a real accelerator. And crypto-specific hedge funds are also taking off. So overall, there's a pretty convincing picture that Bitcoin specifically, and cryptos generally as an asset class, have crossed the Rubicon. So anyway, all this convinced me I ought to consider buying in at some stage. However, I was in no rush, since I had zero intentions of buying at all-time highs. Bitcoin was around 60,000. And I said to Brian G that if it ever dropped into the 40s and 30s, I would be tempted. I don't know where to start when it comes to valuing a crypto asset. I'm basically just hoping I can play the numbers and the timing well, at least from my point of entry. My thoughts were that any buying opportunity was likely a fair way away. However, within a few weeks, that's exactly what happened. I had been put off the crypto-based copy portfolios because with those you're either in or out, and for various reasons, including those put forward in the recent Felix Falix videos, I decided they weren't for me. So when the prices of crypto started to come down, I thought, okay, let's have a little nibble. I started buying a little Bitcoin in the 40s before the really dramatic drop, and I then continued as it fell through the 30s. Since I know nothing, my intention was to focus more on the more substantial options of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Binance Coin. Having picked up a few tidbits from here and there that these three are in some ways built on firmer ground than others. As on election night in the UK, it's like these are the three main parties of Conservatives, Labour and the Lib Dems. These are the ones with a better chance of coming to power. There could be perfectly good reasons for voting for others. Maybe Cardano is like the Green Party, and you really hope they can get some good things done. And some of the sillier coins are like the politician representing the standing at the back dressed stupidly and looking stupid party. Link in the show notes. I did throw some shekels at slightly more speculative options, namely Chainlink and Uniswap, for no better reason than some people who seem to have a clue like their applications. They're not completely ridiculous. That's the bar. I've never had money in something I know less about, except maybe trade better. Indeed, one day I put out a fun, jokey message in the Discord comparing the two, which read as follows. Let's see how well this stands up in 6 months, brackets, or maybe 6 days. This crypto stuff is amazing. Cardano, $200, 1 week, $80 profit. Trade better, $2,000, 6 months, still in the red. So now that I own some crypto, time to start learning something about it. As luck would have it, there are crypto-savvy PIs coming up in the next series of chats. So, now that I have a bias, I can seek to have it confirmed. Dear listener, you are hereby invited to join the Copytraders Club Discord, link in the show notes, where we are developing a little community of eTorians discussing various matters we care about, getting tips from others, answers to our questions. There are some PIs in there, a bunch of copy traders, people with common interests. It's great. There's also a Facebook group, also linked in the show notes, but that has yet to get going, really. That's mostly meant for older people who don't know what is meant by Discord. So 3 fantastic guests coming up in the next wave, plus also potentially that bonus episode in an entirely new format. Football podcast listeners might have an idea what to expect if I call it the Totally Toro Show. Coming up in the next episode, we appear to have our first female guest, a Jane Mesis, Jayne Mesis. My handwriting's terrible. I'm sure it'll all become clear soon. That's it from me today. Until next time we meet at Copytraders Club, I wish you many happy returns. Obviously, anything you hear in this podcast is for entertainment only, not financial advice. Do your own research. This is just generic chit-chat. We don't know your individual circumstances, etc., and so forth.